Welcome to the Investopedia Advisor webinar series. I'm Caleb Silver, the editor-in-chief of Investopedia. We're celebrating the Investopedia 100. We have one of them here, always on the list, Doug Boneparth of Bone Fide Wealth. Thanks so much for being with us, Doug.
Pleasure to be here. Always an honor to make the list and work with you here.
Well, there's a reason you always make it is because you spread your financial education, financial literacy, you help your clients, you help your colleagues. That's what influence is all about. And they recognize you and we recognize you and are proud to celebrate you and all the other 100 advisors. We're going to be talking about fee-based and fee-only advisors here. And I know you're a fee-only advisor. I want to get to that, but I really want to start out with how you got into this business to begin with. We're going to have a lot of folks watching this that are considering starting their own RIA, joining an RIA, getting into the business in general. What was your path? Because it's kind of different and unique, and it speaks to where you are today as an advisor.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. Crazy to think it's been almost 18 years doing this. I'm only 36, geriatric millennial here. But I actually grew up in the business. You know, I've watched my father be a financial planner from a young age, going back to 1991, IDS American Express. That's well before it became Ameriprise Financial, I think in 2005. So I've been watching this from an early age. It's obviously an advantage to get to look at how financial planning works over an even longer period of time than, 18 years. And I spent the first 4 years of my career really working with him while I was in college, learning first how to run a practice, the admin, the operations, those types of things, before, maturing into being able to actually get clients and develop business. And so much of it is really coming into your own as a person and maturing and really being in a position, forget the knowledge for a second, just being a person capable of doing a lot of things that we do as financial advisors.
Right. You're not going to believe this. My grandfather also started his career at IDS, selling mutual funds throughout the Smoky Mountains, Tennessee and Kentucky. So we have that in common, plus a few other things. But very interesting is I also learned some of the business, investment banking and understanding businesses from my father. So the generational knowledge transfer is so important these days. So let's talk about fee-based and fee-only. For folks that don't know, just give us the basics of what the difference is.
Yeah, sure. So, we don't make it easy here in the profession sometimes to understand all the jargon, let alone the ways that you can work with a financial advisor. But let's just go over those two terms, fee-based versus fee-only. So let's start with the easier one, in my opinion, which is fee-only. You do not receive, or your financial advisor or the professional does not receive commissions of any kind. Okay. And it gets a little tricky. If they're a CFP, a certified financial planner with the CFP Board of Standards, and you want to be fee only, you can't even have a separate business that takes commissions, whether that's selling real estate or insurance. You have to only accept revenue or being paid through financial planning fees, like a flat fee. Here's $2,000 to do a financial plan and have a relationship, or through asset-based fees is what you would charge for investment management. You can have that also cover financial planning, but that's it. You can only receive a fee for the management of money or financial planning advice. No commissions. You can't trade. You can't receive what's called a front-end sales load on the sale of a mutual fund. So basically no sales. And the reason for this is to align the incentives between the advisor and the client, right? So account values go up or down. The advisor is going to make less or more depending on that performance. And with a flat fee structure, hey, here's what you're getting all inclusive of this fee. Now, fee-based, right? Fee-based is a little bit of a hybrid of two of these things, okay? You can do everything I just described, and there's also the opportunity to earn commission. So you might find this with advisors who also sell insurance because that's something they need. I did that for almost 16 years of my career, mostly selling term life insurance to my younger clients. But if you go back further, variable annuity products, permanent type products. And I think it's important to know that, I've spent most of my career as a fee-based advisor. A lot of it has to do with how you're registered as an advisor and where you're doing business. So I was affiliated with a broker dealer, as I mentioned, Ameriprise in the past, Commonwealth for a long period of time before starting my own registered investment advisor, RIA, Bone Fide Wealth, which is the fee-only version of this today. And again, I want to stress that it's important to know, like, it's not, I wouldn't look at it as a differentiator. I think there are a lot of good things that come out of being fee only. Yeah, you're removing a lot of the conflicts of interest that that might appear, but I don't really think it makes for a better financial advisor. I think that's multifaceted. I think it has a lot of touch points you want to look at to make the determination, do I have a great financial advisor? But that's the difference between these two, a hybrid approach of collecting fees and commissions on fee-based and no commissions whatsoever on fee-only.
Right. And it makes a lot of sense. And I understand the conflicts of interest part. You don't want people selling you products that aren't necessarily good for you just because the advisor may get commission for that. But any good advisor is not going to stay in business for too long if they're selling you products that aren't good for you and aren't actually performing as your financial advisor. Do you see a broader movement among independents like yourselves into fee-based or fee-only? Are you seeing more folks going fee-only because kind of what it represents in the industry and also because some of the regulations around the industry?
Yeah, you are seeing that shift more towards fee only. And I think from a marketing perspective, just looking at it through a marketing lens as an advisor, it probably looks better to say I don't have these conflicts and I can just work with my client in the following manner. Sure. To be objective, how much of the public and general public really is understanding the difference of these? That's why they should be watching this and understanding what those things are. So we have work to do here. Also, I think that younger advisors want to go fee only, not only because of the way in which they want to view the future of the business. They don't want to be behind the eight ball, right? Sure. If this is truly the way we're going, either make the change now or start that way right now. I was fortunate to have a pretty smooth transition from going from being fee-based to fee only. But now you're really diving into a lot of the mechanics of how operators, so how financial planners and advisors are operators of their business. That's what we're really talking about here, an operational function, how you're setting yourself up and building your practice, almost greater than how that translates into client service and what you're delivering to your clients.
Yeah, I want to get into how you run your business as an independent, especially in fee-based, because you got to market your practice. You have to service your clients. You have to find new opportunities for them to, expand their wealth or protect their wealth. And you got to take care of the small business itself, the back of the office, which I know is never simple. And, if you could do what you wanted all the time, you would just be helping out your clients. But talk about what it means as an independent, especially in a fee-only environment, to run the business, the small business of an RIA.
Yeah, I think that's, again, that's what I was first taught, from a father who took operating a business seriously. He always called it working in the practice and working on the practice, right? Working on the practice, building it out, running it, and then working in the practice, developing business. And, it's me and two staff. So in the beginning, just me. And you got to be good at both of these things. But I think you build out your infrastructure and you become an operator. When I teach young associates or I'm mentoring young associates, I talk about learning how to operate a business. I think that's absolutely critical. You need to have that in place before you could even really go out there and bring business in the door. What are you bringing them into? So it's extremely critical. I mean, look, if you want to be entrepreneurial, there we go, and build this thing from the ground up or run your own practice someday, these are skills that you're going to need to have. But most of the industry, I would argue, is, plugging themselves into great ops and admin, whether that's through a large financial organization, a large RIA, they want you in there to produce, or, you're working on the business on their behalf. So that's what's kind of really interesting and really neat about personal finance in general. Not everyone needs to be a producing financial advisor. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. You can be an intrapreneur in larger practices, or you can be a support, you can have a support role and help, grow the business and support financial advisors and other personnel in the practice. There's a lot you can do here. And, it goes the same for a lot of businesses.
Yeah. But something we've learned, and this has really evolved over the past decade, you're certainly a proponent and an example of it, is it's the running of the practice, the servicing of the clients, the running of the small business, and then the marketing of the practice, which is all about, in your case, financial education, literacy, a conversation you have in social media, perhaps a newsletter, you go on podcasts, you've been on mine, you've been on, you're on several others, you're on TV frequently. That's the marketing of you, your expertise in the practice. And then there's the servicing of the clients for their individual needs. And you got to have all of those things going if you want to be an independent. But there are, as you mentioned, so many avenues to get involved in this business, so many touch points where whether you're servicing clients or on the marketing side or on the support side. So super important for people to know. Let's talk about the expectations a client should have if they're coming to you and you're fee only in terms of services. Let's say I come in for the first time, I'm 50, I got a family, and I want to make sure I have my life insurance needs. I want to make sure I have college money put away. Are you going to give me sort of a menu of options that have different price points? How does it work when we interact?
Yeah. So the first thing I do in any consult is really define, what the agenda is going to look like. What are we going to talk about? The very first thing I want to do is understand as much as the prospect is willing to tell me, right? I want to know their paint a high level overview of your financial life for me. Before even that, give me the basics, basic demographic, your name, age, have their name, but your age, what do you do? Walk me through numbers high level so I can get some kind of sense as to what you're working with financially. And then the most important part is understanding what the goals are. Why are we talking today? What is it that you're looking to get out of this relationship? What's bothering you? What are the touch points you want to address when it comes to your financial life? Once I get all that information, they have a chance to express themselves. I try and accomplish two goals. Those two goals are helping individuals figure out how to work with a financial advisor, even if it's not me. I try and be as objective as possible here. I want them to know about financial planning, and that's how we start our relationships, through the lens and guise of financial planning, not investment management, not products, through advice, planning, and service, right? And then secondly, my goal would be helping them figure out if they are ready to work with a financial advisor. I feel like objectivity, transparency, brutal honesty usually wins the day when securing long-term relationships. And if I have someone that just is not going to get the value out of working with a professional, me or otherwise, I want to tell them that. So here we are now talking about the financial planning process. So here's what we're, diving into: 6 key areas of financial planning. This is what we cover and give advice on. And here's the process that we use to deliver that advice. Tell them about the deliverable, tell them about the client service model, how we give our recommendations, the objectivity that we have when they go about implementing those recommendations. They have choice as to whether or not they want to invest with our firm. We have no minimums, no obligation to invest with us. I know the demographic I serve typically doesn't have the time to do it themselves, despite having the knowledge and ability to do it. They just don't want to do it. Very candid about that. Like, we're not designing portfolios that, outperform the S&P 500. I'm going around saying we're the best portfolio manager in the world. That's not our job, right? So making sure, again, 2 goals, that they understand what financial planning is and what that process looks like, is ultimately going to help them make an informed decision as to whether or not they're going to get enough value out of working with a professional. Always end it with making sure I answer any questions they have. We walk through fee structures. That's usually what happens right after I do the spiel. They know that it's a flat annual financial planning fee to engage with us and do a financial plan before even.
Like a retainer type of thing?
It's an annual retainer. They're going to get quarterly service meetings for that. They can reach out to us whenever they want. We're retained by them. Life's fickle, things come up. But in those first about 4 to 6 weeks out from coming on board with us, they're going to go over the written financial planning document. Pretty extensive meeting. This is the most intense I think it gets throughout the entire client relationship. First year financial planning, first plan ever. Yeah. And then what we'll do is we'll follow up with a summary of all the action items and try and get them all done throughout the year. Maybe that leads to investment management and other things that we can help them with. Maybe not. Get to the end of the first year, see if we're going to be doing this again. We always encourage that if you're going to do financial planning, that we continue to do this on an ongoing basis.
Right. So you mentioned the quarterly check-ins, that first meeting, so intense. What's so intense about it is when you're actually doing this, and it better, this is probably part of the joy of being a financial advisor, is having people literally lay out their goals. What is important to you? Not, I want to be a millionaire, but what's the North Star here? Is the North Star having money so you can buy your time, as our friend Brandon Carlson likes to say, so you can afford your time? Or is it having money for retirement or an asset purchase or to take care of relatives, or so that you can stop working at a certain point? But actually having that conversation is the eye opener for so many people, and then seeing it laid out in a huge report, which, there's great software that does that these days. That's a pretty intense experience for both the advisor and the client, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, just take retirement planning, for example. Here you are showing them, and again, I'm dealing with mostly 30-something-year-olds into early 40s. getting someone to think about where they're going to be 20, 30 plus years down the road is tough. And I think good advisors or good planners aren't necessarily saying, well, what do you want retirement to look like? They don't know, they don't have the context. So our job is to give them context throughout the entire financial plan, and using kind of the retirement planning piece as one example here. Construct 3 practical scenarios for them. That's what we do. We say, all right, let's show you how this game is played. You've never seen a retirement projection before, or a retirement scenario before. Let me show you all the inputs and the variables that go into this. Social Security there. Do we want to mess with that? What rates of return, inflation, when you want to retire, when you die, all of these things, right? Here's how the game is played. Here's what the output looks like, the probability you won't run out of money. That's what we're solving for. No, I never ask them, well, what, just show it to them, get their mind going. And then in the final version of the plan that we deliver, we want to hear, well, what do you want to see? Now you know how this game is played, right? It might be very difficult to do retirement at 50 or have financial independence before 60. But if you want to see it, we can now solve for that. And what I'm trying to do is get them fired up to go attack that goal. Because again, very difficult to wrap your head and get motivated around something that's so far away. But even providing that context, it saves them time, it saves them energy, 2 huge wins right there. And if they're a well-oiled machine now, it's going to save them money too, because they're more effective with their saving strategies and investment strategies.
Right. And when you see the numbers and the percentages and your percentage to goal, or what happens if I take a left here instead of a right, you get to see sort of that simulation of how things could play out. So powerful for clients, especially the first time. But the most important thing, and I hear you say it all the time, Doug, and great advisors say it all the time, we have a plan. Let's stick to the plan. Market may be going bananas. I know you're calling me because the market just dropped 5%, or this is happening over here, or inflation's on the rise. We have a plan. We stick to the plan. When the variables really change, we reassess the plan. But the key is to have the plan to start with. I want to ask about the investment management side of things, because so many people think that that's what a financial advisor does exclusively. And maybe there are some that do that. They invest on your behalf and that's it. But financial planning, especially for independents, especially lately, more in general, is more holistic, right? It is college planning, retirement planning, healthcare planning, end of life planning, kids planning, right? It's the whole gamut. It's the whole enchilada, as we say. So if investment management is part of that, and maybe you'll construct some ETFs for your clients or put them in some sort of investment plan, how do you get paid for that as a fee-only advisor? Is that a flat fee as well, or do you get a percentage of upside?
Yeah, so our firm charges 1% generally on the assets that we're managing for our clients. One thing we do differently, and I know other firms do this, is when you get to $500,000 in investments or investable assets with our firm, you're going to receive the financial planning piece each and every year. You're not going to pay a separate flat annual financial planning fee. Why did I choose to do that? I simply, again, feel that the value in working with a financial planner is through the financial plan advice relationship component. I also believe that that's a piece that really can't be commoditized very well. Don't think robots are going to take over having a human relationship, to have empathy, to be relatable, to then pair it with the right advice. And got a whole book of clients here who've been in similar positions. You can share their stories. You can't do that with a robot, and by the way, robo advisors are great. We use them all the time. It's not really a knock. It's just a different service. And then two, you can't really call a call center, get a different advisor every single time to do ad hoc, advice, when you really want something that's holistic and a continued relationship here. But back to the investment management piece, we charge 1% on what we manage here. The bulk of what we manage is long-term risk-adjusted or modeled out portfolios. We do mostly select which funds or ETFs into the respective asset categories. We do a tactical model for clients as well. It's a simple timing model. We put together opportunity portfolios where we really collaborate with the clients to see what long-term positions that they can take that they have a high conviction for. Like, hey, all we do is wear Lululemon every single day since work from home, or there's always an Amazon box showing up at my door literally every minute. Maybe that's something you should invest in, whether it's Amazon, or what about the real estate, that sits behind Amazon, like the distribution centers. There's ways to think about and have conversations when we're doing opportunity type stuff. But again, it's important to note that might be 5, 10, up to 20% of all of the investable assets that they have. The core position is to be very disciplined, right? With these risk-adjusted portfolios. Again, the robo-advisors, this is what they're putting you into. Risk-adjusted models, low cost. They got that part right. So anyone out there being like, oh, I hate robo, you got it wrong. It is a valid solution. Your value proposition is over on planning and advice. Again, brutal honesty to my clients is, if you're going to invest with us, it's because you don't want to do it yourself. That's where we are, just with how commoditized the investment piece is. And it's not a knock on active managers. There's a place for all of this. Truly, I still use active managed strategies in my fixed income positions. I'm still using an actively managed bond fund for most of my clients here, because I know I'm not going to below my expense budget on a total return bond fund. And there are some managers in the fixed income space that I think really do have a good grip on things. Am I going to do that in large cap US? No way. You're going to go buy the S&P 500. You imagine paying 90 basis points or more for large cap growth, value, or just a blend? No. Everybody knows you go buy the S&P 500 for that. Maybe you, and look, as an advisor, maybe you have a different say on emerging markets or small cap, or in markets that obviously have a little bit more of a spread, in some of the things that they're investing in, and aren't as tight as the large cap equity space. So that's how I think about investments at the firm in general. Just, again, are we saving clients time by doing the right thing and being super disciplined when it comes to the core or bulk of their money? And I make it very clear they can do it with us. They can do it on their own, because you can pretty much do it for free. Or you can find a hybrid solution, or do all of the above. And we have that happen too. The client wants to run their own opportunity portfolio, trade their own stocks with 10% of their investable net worth. I love that idea. It keeps them in the know, knowledgeable, participating. What's the worst thing they do? They blow up 10. What do you see in those portfolios anyways? You see Microsoft and Tesla. Yep. You see like the big tech names, Very rarely am I seeing some weird small cap in there that does have the potential to go to zero. So hopefully they add performance. Worst case, they take a little haircut on a small portion of their portfolio. So I think the moral of this story is, from an investment management point of view, we try and allow clients to work with us and investments however they like, because we're backing it up with financial planning, which we know is the value generator.
Right, absolutely. And also, if you let them play with their own account, whether it's 5-10% to do their own thing, then you get to avoid the calls of, how come we didn't buy Tesla before earnings? Or how come you didn't get me into GameStop? That's kind of like the 20th century.
Yeah, give me your crystal ball. Maybe it works better than mine.
Right. Everyone's got an opinion and a hot stock pick, but the core is financial planning, the plan itself, and sort of the long game, playing the long game of where you're going. And that doesn't mean your investments are going to go up 10, 20, 25, 40% every year. We had an interesting year last year, but it is the long game, and so important. So back to the fee only. I'm coming in as a client. It's a $2,000 retainer to get your business. It's 1% of assets under management if you're investing on my behalf. And then is it literally an a la carte menu of insurance, 529 plan, long-term care plan. What else what could I possibly choose from? And are those obviously have different price points, right?
Yeah. So two things. Starts at 2,000, goes up to 10. It's based on complexity. So if you got a really advanced case, it's going to take a lot of time. Divestiture schedules for long-term incentives, multi-generational tax and estate planning, a lot of collaboration with other third-party professionals. You might find yourself moving off that basic entry-level fee. It's pretty logical. But as far as what else you can do, if you're fee-based, you could offer other services and products, like we talked about earlier, life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance. So your typical trifecta of insurance. There's advisors who do mortgages and property casualty, I'm sure comes into play there, and other forms of insurance that you can get into. I'm thinking not a lot in the real estate space, but as fee only, that's it. You got two things. You got financial planning, to be clear here, financial planning and investment management. That's all we offer. But what we will do, and let me walk that back a little bit, because when I did sell life insurance, and we decided to let that go to become fee only. So I had to make an evaluation, and this is going to be good for the listeners. I had to make an evaluation as to whether or not it was worth going from fee-based to fee only, because I would have to say goodbye to the insurance business. And I viewed that two ways. Now, I had an easier view on it than, say, someone deciding to do this who's built their practice out for 30 years and still has A-share mutual funds in there and variable annuity business and lots of trail revenue, right? Those are the residual commissions that come in. I mean, if that's 40% of the revenue of your practice, you're not gonna be so quick to go fee only here and say goodbye to that. That's material. That could really ruin a good year for you. But for me, I looked at insurance and said, all right, this is, let's look at it from a money factor point of view. This was 2% of revenue for the entire practice. It wasn't really about the revenue here. To go get fee only and to market that way and feel like I'm, going in the right direction of the industry, that was a no-brainer from a money point of view. But then really what weighed on me more was, am I going to be dropping a layer of service that I can provide my clients? Because as much as it wasn't a revenue generator, it was a value proposition generator, right? To know that we could handle the insurance needs of our clients without them having to go to a third-party agency or someone who wants to sell them volcano and bee sting insurance. I made those two lines up. You just don't want to send someone there. You say, hey, go get 30-year term insurance. They're coming out with a VUL that they can't afford and don't need. We would prevent a lot of things like that happening. Just, again, make life easy. You only got to go to one place to do that. Obviously, I had to say goodbye to that because I thought the value of being fee only was far greater than that. And I did come on to solutions, whether it be insurance technology solutions, Ladder Life, I'll plug them. They're particularly good at handling term insurance very quickly without underwriting. If you're in good health, you can do it all online. That blew my mind that when I bought a policy through them, it took 10 minutes versus 8 weeks of underwriting. Insanity. And then there's other third-party agencies that work specifically with RIAs and advisors who don't do that business anymore, and you can trust them, and they'll roll out the red carpet for your client, communicate with you the whole way. They're paired one-to-one with you on that, so that was super cool. And that's what was going through my mind, in going fee only and saying goodbye to insurance. But listen, plenty of advisors like to offer a whole suite of product and additional services, which is again fine if you're starting with the financial planning piece, because I think that really removes a lot of the conflicts. It explains why you're making those recommendations, why they should buy this, and it really backs up, those recs. Otherwise, you're probably just becoming an insurance agent.
Sure. And there are some practices that do offer the full suite of services. Maybe there's somebody down the hall that handles insurance, or I'm sure you have been in this business quite a while. You have people you like to refer folks to that you're comfortable with. So there is the ecosystem of other folks helping each other out across the industry. Let me ask you this: on the marketing of your practice, you do such a good job of it on your own by being on TV and by being in other places and your social presence. But in terms of the straight marketing, whether it's digital or marketing out to new clients, how important is it for you to stress the fee only part of what you do when you're doing that, when you're creating that marketing message, whether it's for on your blog, whether it's on your website, in social, or in straight direct marketing materials?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the answer you're expecting or looking for here, but I don't think it's that much of a differentiator compared to other things that maybe you can promote. I think it's one piece of the puzzle here. Yes, it's on the website. Am I going out of my way to say fee only? Not particularly. How many times does a prospect ask that when we get to the Q&A session? Not as often as you think. I think younger clients who or prospects that went to a website that says, ask the following 10 questions. I'm sure Investopedia has a number of these articles. I think I may have written one at some point in time.
Probably did.
I know I've definitely written more than one throughout my career of what to look for. And you can hear the prospect or see them go to, their sheet of paper with questions, ask if fiduciary, ask if fee only. It's like,
what is this word fiduciary? Are you?
Yeah. You can hear the tone in their voice, and they don't even know what it means. They just know to ask it. So what does that tell you about the power of marketing? That not the greatest thing in the world here. I think it becomes more relevant. So it's important, to have it there. But from a marketing perspective, I mean, this is the part of the business I love. And you pointed out all the fun and amazing things I get to do. I'm really privileged to do the television podcast. I get to kind of be a personality here, which is very, not just good for the ego, but really good for business and branding and all of that. So, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. And I think Michael Kitces once was like, don't let being a fiduciary is not a differentiator. I think is what, there was an article he wrote about that. I would say the same thing about fee only. I think those two just go hand in hand. Like that can't be the thing that differentiates you. Do you know really how many fee only advisors there are? Like, is that making you all that much more special? Probably not. And really, put some thought leadership out there, whether you're writing blogs, making videos, making some finance jokes that I often do pretty much all the time. But, you do what you like, you do what you have to do. A lot of it is strategy. You're playing SEO, keyword optimization for things you want people to find. It's a whole big game that you can get lost into virtually, 50 to 100% of your day. And I've been down that road before.
Sure. Sure. And to your point, you and I know what it is. A lot of folks listening may be very familiar with what it is. The financial services industry spends a lot of time and money on marketing that. If you watch, any of the sports where financial services advertise, they make it a big deal. But I think most clients either assume it or they're not even thinking about it. They're thinking about what can you do for me holistically.
What does that tell you about like what you actually do? You asked me, how do I approach a prospect? And I told you what my two goals are. I spend 30 minutes, rambling or hopefully educating here on, again, how to work with a financial advisor and figuring out if working with one is a good value proposition is right for you. Financial planning areas and financial planning process. That, I think, is the value proposition you want to get across, and then figure out is this the face and person you want to be dealing with when it comes to those things. And if they don't want to work with you, you got to have some satisfaction that they at least are going to go out there now knowing the right way to work with a professional. I feel good. Yeah, I don't feel great. I didn't get the client perhaps, but you should feel good as a professional and someone who takes the profession seriously and wants to promote, its growth in the right way. Caleb, we're still coming out of the brokerage days of, 20 plus, 30 plus years ago. That was transactional. That's why we're talking about fee-based and fee only. It used to be commission only, no one's talking about barter only. You have to go back to, cavemen here. I'll trade you a financial plan for a coconut. No, that's not happening, but still, we got a long ways to go, and it's nice to see, I think is my point, that we're getting into structures, certainly compensation models that I think are better aligned with the relationship that you're trying to have with your clients as opposed to products and other services. You
mentioned Michael Kitces also on the Investopedia 100 perennially, because he really, I think, maybe saw this coming. I remember speaking to him 5 or so years ago and said, we're going to an a la carte menu for financial services and financial advice. That's just the way it's going. That's what people want. Look at what people are looking for on Investopedia, little snippets of financial advice. That's exactly how they're going to want to pay for it in the future. Last question for you, Doug. This is for young advisors or folks who are considering getting into the industry. You're a young man, but you're old in the business, so to speak. If you were starting now and you were wanted to get on this independent fee only path and start your practice, what are 2 or 3 key things you got to do today to make sure that you set yourself up for success?
That's a big question here. I think the first thing I'd have you do is, big fan of writing things down and mapping out where you want this to go. It's cliche to say, where do you want to be in 5 years? And, I like taking that very almost cliche thing and reverse engineering it. Yes, where do you want to be in 5 years? But then ask yourself, what would it have taken to get there, and work it backwards, right? So you're now in year 5, you have your own RIA, you got 30 million under management or whatever benchmark you're using, 50 clients all paying financial planning fees. You get to choose this. You don't even have to do. I know plenty of financial planners who do not manage money. They just charge flat financial planning fees. Maybe they also manage money inclusive of that. We just spend a great deal of time talking about coming up with ways to do this business that work for you. You're the operator. You get to choose how you want these relationships to work and how you want comp to work. A lot of opinions out there. I would vastly ignore most of them and think about what's going to work for you, even my own. I've made it. You can work with us however you want. I'm a big fan of that model. I don't really see too much opposition or something like, oh, this guy Doug over here, he has all the ways to work. That's bad. I don't know how that's bad. But young, map it out, work it backwards. So what would have happened in year 4 to get to year 5, 3 to 4, 2 to 3, 1, and so on and so forth? Write that down, whiteboard it, Excel, Word, pen and paper. Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite books here, Think and Grow Rich. Those who write things down are more likely to achieve their goals than those who don't. Wait, that sounds a lot like financial planning. That's what we do for our clients. So do that same thing, business planning for you. This is just business planning 101. So that's number one, write it down, have the vision, get behind that. And then the second thing I would tell you to do is focus on, it's a good quote from a former colleague of mine. He would say, whose hand do you want to hold, right? In terms of who do you want to service? Right. I started my career doing mostly pre-retirees and post-retirees, and they're wonderful people before I pivoted to going with young professionals. And I've learned that, for me and what gets me excited and who I want to work with, it was the young professionals getting out of their student loan and having a career, settling down and doing very classic things relative to older generations. I wanted to have that relatability piece there. So I think if you can start to, eventually the very far end of that is, what niche do you want? Okay, you don't have to go, I'm only going to do veterinarians in, the St. Louis marketplace. Cool if you get there and that's your thing. Also don't want to go so broad that, hey, I'm going to go with millennials like Doug did here. Maybe that ship has sailed, right? There's 80 million millennials in the United States. Like, oh, that's a nice niche you have there, Doug. I don't know how much it really is a niche, as I just had first mover advantage, right? Like I was one of the first to do it, hence the ability to brand around it and be that guy. So this is, in the middle there is something for you to think about. And why I bring that up is simply because this is what you're going to market around and build your content around. So it's never too early to start writing, whether that's through a blog. It's never too early to start creating content. Find out what you like to make and what you like to do, what speaks to your extroverted or introverted nature. How do you want to be a thought leader in your local marketplace? I often envy advisors and planners who exist in smaller market groups and smaller geographic areas, because they can dominate their local, there's not a lot of competition for the keywords you're looking for the role you want to play and how you want to put yourself out there as an expert. Come to New York City where we are, you got every major financial, good luck winning keywords with finance in it. You want to go up against BlackRock's, hundreds of billions of dollars, or Merrill or Morgan or UBS, you name it. They got more money than, you have time. So it's not going to happen there. That's why it's so critically to think about building out that model, whose hand you want to hold and how you're going to market to that, and then skill yourself up. Get your CFP as soon as possible. Get the credentials that relate to the demographic you want to serve as soon as possible. If you're struggling to get credibility because your face and name is not in the news, you got to back it up with education. And then, in a place where everyone has a bachelor's degree, now masters are new to the bachelor's degree. Like, if you don't have your CFP going out there trying to be a financial planner, you're missing something extraordinarily important. So, hey, CFP board, send me my check. No, just kidding. That's critically important.
Absolutely. The designation is important, and also the education is important. You'll want that if you're really going to do this as a living. And also things change, so that recertification, so important. Great advice, Doug. And the whole session really painting a great picture of what it really means to be fee only and operate as an independent business person in this challenging business, but you've done very well. And I think people have so much to learn from you. Folks, follow Doug on the social media channels. He's everywhere you can find him, also on his site at Bone Fide Wealth. We're so grateful for your time, for your expertise, and the generosity you've shown us and everybody, Doug. So thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Always a pleasure to be here.